know I wrote a book, right? It's called Buy a Game and it's free. Click the link down there, you got it.
DreAllDay.com.
So here we are, Eastern Conference Finals 2017 NBA playoffs. Boston Celtics, #1 seed, are hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers, #2 seed in the East, to see who's going to go on to the 2017 NBA Finals. Now let's get right into what's going to happen in this series. First of all, we got to go with the challengers. And even though they're the #1 seed and have home court advantage, the Boston Celtics are still the challengers because the team they're playing against just went to the finals last year and just won the finals last year. So let's talk about the Boston Celtics. Looking at their roster, they got about an 8-man rotation that they've been working with, that they did work with in the Washington series. We didn't see any of Zeller, Jerebko, Gerald Green, James Young, not much Rozier. Basically, it was the starters. Then you had Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk destroyed the Washington Wizards in Game 7. Kelly Olynyk destroyed Kevin Love's shoulder in, I believe it was Game 4 of the Cavs-Celtics series 2 years ago. So Kelly Olynyk has been doing some destroying in the past, and he's done some destroying in the present. I think they're going to see a good amount of Kelly Olynyk in the series against the Cavs, because Olynyk showed the ability to put the ball on the floor and drive from the perimeter all the way to the rim. The Cavs big man, save for Tristan Thompson, they are not that fleet of foot. I think Channing Frye is good. He has the smarts. He knows where to be and what to do on defense, but does he have the physical capabilities of actually doing it? I'm not too sure that he does. I think we're going to see some Kelly Olynyk in this series for the Boston Celtics, and he's definitely a plus for them. He can help them a lot in this conference final series. Who else do we have on the Celtics? We're talking about the bench right now. Marcus Smart is a hard-nosed guy, really physically strong guy. He has a nose for the ball. He always finds a way to get around the ball and make plays. Sometimes he makes good plays, sometimes bad plays, but he makes plays. He's a factor. He's not a guy who's going to disappear when he's out there on the court. He's a guy who's going to be a factor in some way, shape, or form. I see him and maybe J.R. Smith having some run-ins in this series. I don't know why I think that, but I think they're going to have some run-ins. Marcus Smart and J.R. Smith sometime in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics are going to need Smart to make those all-around plays, be around the ball, just do something, have an impact in some way, shape, or form. And I also think Marcus Smart is going to need to score a couple of points. Not a lot of points, but score some points. Maybe make a couple plays on D against Kyrie and LeBron James, maybe even against Kevin Love. Maybe knock down a couple threes. Marcus Smart is not the best outside shooter from the three, but if he can make a couple, I think that'll definitely help them. He shot in the postseason, he's shooting 36.6% from the field, 38% from three. So he's actually a better three-point shooter in the playoffs than he's actually been a field goal shooter. So the guy's not that much of a scorer, but he's a guy who has a nose for the ball. He's around the ball. He finds a way to make plays, and the Celtics are going to need him to make some plays. Now let's take a look, and we also got Jaylen Brown, who's a rookie but super athletic guy. Maybe he'll get a chance to do something against the Cavs, but something tells me we may not see too much of Jaylen Brown in this series. I think the Celtics may even have to tighten the rotation up to 7, or if they're getting their ass kicked, they're going to have to open it up, and we'll see a lot more Jaylen Brown. So we'll see about Jaylen Brown. I don't think he is as important to them as Marcus Smart and Kelly Olynyk will be as far as guys coming off the bench. Now, looking at the starting lineup, you got Al Horford, who is not a big stats guy. I had Al Horford on my fantasy team this year, and he didn't put up the kind of crazy stats I would hope for a starter in the fantasy team. But in real basketball, not fantasy, but real win-the-game basketball, Al Horford is a great player because he's always in the right place. He's a great teammate. He makes the right plays. He's a hell of a passer. He's a great passer from a big man position. And he fits on this team perfectly. He's a guy who's going to get you 5-6 rebounds every night, 5 or 6 assists every night, and somewhere between 10 and 20 points every single game. And knowing what you're going to get from a guy is important. Avery Bradley is a hell of a defender. Even against a guy like Kyrie who can make anybody dance, Avery Bradley is going to play some good D on Kyrie. He's going to make some plays against Kyrie in this series. You can mark my words on that. Offensively, he is not a big, actually, he's been actually pretty good in the postseason. I'm looking at his stats. He's averaging almost 16 points a game in the playoffs, shooting 46% from the floor, 38% from three, 75% from the line. Avery Bradley's a guy who they're going to need him against a guy like Kyrie Irving. A scorer like Kyrie, even a guy like Kyle Korver coming off those screens. The Celtics are going to need those 3 guards that they have, even the 4 guards. Isaiah, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Avery Bradley. Those guys are going to have to be super active and aware defensively with shooters like JR and Kyrie. JR and Kyle Korver, and then you got a scorer. JR is a scorer also, and a guy like Kyrie Irving. So they're going to have to be very active. Avery Bradley being a great defender that he is, I'm sure he's up for the task. I think he's excited to go up against a guy like Kyrie Irving, who could score on pretty much anybody in this series. He's going to be there. Amir Johnson, we may not see too much of him. He's the guy who I think he's going to get swapped out. We're going to see more Kelly Olynyk and more quote-unquote small lineups where you put a guy like Marcus Smart in there along with Avery and Isaiah Thomas at the same time. Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder is kind of like he moves into the spot where Markieff Morris would be, or you would have a DeMarre Carroll or a PJ Tucker or a Lance Stevenson, bulky, strong wing guy who could play a small ball 4 role, who is going to try his hand at guarding Mr. LeBron James. Jay Crowder is not any better than any of those other guys that I just mentioned. Let's see what Jay Crowder's been doing so far in the playoffs. He had some good games against Washington. He's scoring 13 points a game. He'll get you 6 rebounds, 42% from the floor, 31% from 3. You don't want Jay Crowder shooting the ball with the game on the line, Boston fans. You don't want him shooting the ball, but with his physicality, his physical ability, you want him on the court so he can try to go up against a guy like LeBron James. And you think Jay Crowder, when you see him, you're looking at a guy, you're like, damn, he's big, strong, bulky, big dude. He looks like he could be a bouncer or a security guard at the club. But then when you look at these numbers, Jay Crowder is 6'6", 6 feet 6 inches tall, 235 pounds. That guy on Cleveland's team is both taller and weighs more than Jay Crowder. And Jay Crowder's a pretty big dude. So they're going to need Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder's going to have to leave it all on the floor, effort-wise, defensive-wise, against LeBron James. That's his job in this series. We don't need you to score. Just need you to do that against LeBron James. Now let's take a look at the champions. The defending champion, Cleveland, the defending Eastern Conference and NBA champion, Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's take a look at their roster. I mean, they just came off sweeping the Toronto Raptors. One of my friends had texted me and said the Cavs played like 8 games in 38 days or something like that because they swept through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So they've really been able to rest, get their players some rest. We know who's on their team. We've gone over this every series, and they haven't played that much because they've killed both of the 2 teams that they played so far in the playoffs. But who I think is going to matter in this series, Channing Frye. A big guy who, once LeBron, they put that small lineup out there, and LeBron is just out there with 4 shooters, 4 guys who can knock down that open shot. That's when you see less Tristan Thompson, more Channing Frye. So you think of a Channing Frye, Kevin Love, Kyrie, and a shooter, whether that be JR or Kyle Korver out there with LeBron James. What are the Celtics going to do about that? That's a question that I have for Celtics fans or basketball fans. What are the Celtics going to do when that lineup's out there? You got LeBron James and 4 guys who can make 3-pointers spreading the floor. Somebody has to guard LeBron one-on-one. Celtics have no one who can do that. Then or you got to send somebody to come help off of one of those shooters. And LeBron James, if there's any player in the NBA who's good at finding open shooters when anybody cheats or helps, LeBron James is the guy who can do it. He has the size to do it, he has the vision, and he has the skill of making that pass. And then you got guys like Channing Frye, Kyle Korver, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love. Which one of those guys do you want to leave open for a 3-point shot? Or would you rather try your hand at LeBron James going one-on-one against one of your players, such as who? I mean, if the Golden State Warriors with Iguodala and Draymond Green didn't have anybody, who did the Celtics have? As far as I'm concerned, they don't have anybody. So that's something that Boston fans or basketball fans in general, we're going to need an answer to that, because that's the way you stop the Cavaliers offensively. Well, you don't stop them. But if you're going to have a chance, you got to figure something out when they put that lineup out there. What are you going to do? Tristan Thompson is a guy who is not an outside shooter. He basically can finish lobs, is what Thompson does. But he is a hell of an offensive rebounder. And here's the challenge that the Celtics have. This is something I've heard Bill Simmons say. Bill Simmons, who writes for The Ringer, used to write for ESPN. I'm a big fan of Bill, and he's from Boston, so he's a big Celtics homer. He's a fan. He admits that he's a homer for the Celtics. And his biggest challenge with the Celtics is that they do not have interior presence at the rim, which is a serious damn problem when you're going up against a guy who may be the most devastating perimeter to the rim, one of the most devastating coming from the perimeter and attacking the rim finishers the game has known, in LeBron James. Okay, so when LeBron gets ahead of steam and starts going towards the rim, who's going to get in the way? Who's going to stop him? Kelly Olynyk, Amir Johnson, Al Horford, Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder's going to be behind him because LeBron's too fast. He's going to go around him. What are the Celtics going to do when that happens? When LeBron attacks the rim? What are the Celtics going to do when a guy like Tristan Thompson, who's one of the top offensive rebounders in the whole NBA, might have been the leading offensive rebounder in the whole NBA this year, what are they going to do when he's out there hunting offensive boards? That's pretty much, if you watch the Cavs, that's pretty much all Tristan Thompson does on offense. Either he's catching an alley-oop, catching a lob from when someone drives to the hole and draws attention, he catches a lob and finishes it, or somebody else shoots the ball and Tristan is trying to figure out how he can get the offensive rebound. That's all he does. And guess what? That's worth $85 million. And he's pretty damn good at it. What are the Celtics going to do when he's doing that? They don't have an interior guy who's even that strong on the glass. Al Horford's their best big guy. He's not that strong on the glass. Kelly Olynyk can't jump. He's not athletic at all. And Amir Johnson is athletic and can jump, but he's kind of old. So what are they going to do? And Amir Johnson is basically kills your spacing offensively because he can't shoot. So what are the Celtics going to do about Tristan Thompson? And, oh yeah, I forgot, Kevin Love, who led the NBA in rebounding a couple years ago before he came to the Cavs. And when he wanted to last year in the playoffs, i.e. like in Game 7 against the Warriors, Kevin Love can be a beast on the boards again when he wants to. I mean, he was a beast on the boards when he was getting the ball all the time in Minnesota. And it seems like he forgot how to do that playing for the Cavs last year. But it seems like he's starting to get that skill back. So I think Kevin Love and the Kevin Love Tristan Thompson combination when it comes to the rebounding is going to kick the Celtics' ass. The Celtics got to figure that out. That's one thing they got to figure out. They got to figure out how they're going to guard LeBron when they put that space the floor lineup out there and LeBron running the show, or even Kyrie Irving running the show. And then they got to figure out what are they going to do when, what was the third thing they got to figure out? I can't remember what the third thing was. So let's just say those two things. LeBron spacing the floor and those two offensive rebound eating big men in Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson. What are the Celtics going to do about those two things? Looking at the rest of the Cavs lineup, Darren Williams has given them some good stopgap minutes. I mean, he's not that great of an offensive or defensive player at this point, but he's a guy who's not going to come in and mess up. That's the thing you know about Darren. He will keep the ship afloat. He's not going to destroy you. He's not going to come in and change the entire face of the game, but he won't come in and mess up, and he can hit a couple outside shots. Kyle Korver, man, the dude's been throwing flames in the playoffs. If you've been watching the playoffs at all, Kyle Korver is throwing flames. If he's still throwing flames, Boston, y'all in trouble. Richard Jefferson, we may see some of. Everybody else on the bench, Derek Williams, James Jones, Dante Jones, I don't think we'll see those guys unless there's some type of emergency or is a blowout and it's garbage time. Looking at the rest of the Cavs lineup, Iman Shumpert. Again, I've said about Iman Shumpert, I thought he had more offensive skill than he's shown the last 2 years in the playoffs. So I guess that's just the player that he is. I guess I just thought wrong of what he could do. But he's an active guy. He's an athletic guy. And he brings a ton of energy. He plays hard. He's not the most skilled guy they have, but he plays hard. And that's something that a lot of players don't do. So having a guy who can do that, come in and give you 10 to 20 minutes of hard play is important, especially when the Celtics are manned offensively by a guy like Isaiah Thomas, who I didn't even mention. He's their leader. I mean, he's 5 feet 7 inches tall, but that dude can put the ball in the basket. Kyrie Irving can't guard Isaiah Thomas. He should be able to guard Isaiah Thomas. I'm not even going to say they can't. He won't guard Isaiah Thomas. Kyrie just doesn't try that hard on defense. That's the only way I can describe it. He don't try as hard on D as he does on offense. That's just who he is as a player, I suppose. So Isaiah's going to get his points. But when you got a guy like Iman Shumpert who can come in and guard him for a little while, that will help the Cavs as long as Iman stays under control, doesn't foul, and put them in a worse situation when he's guarding him. J.R. Smith didn't really have his touch that much in the Raptors series, but we know what he can do. We know he can create his own shot. He can get hot from the outside, and he's an athletic guy who can guard any one or two that the Celtics have. I talked about everybody else. Kevin Love. I think we're going to see some good scoring out of Kevin Love in the Eastern Conference Finals simply because the Celtics don't have a rim protector, an athletic guy who can block shots a la Serge Ibaka or Miles Turner, who've been in the last two series, who can kind of use their athleticism to get Kevin Love out of his game. Even on the Warriors, you got a guy like Kevin Durant or Draymond Green or JaVale McGee who was athletic enough to take Kevin Love out of his comfort zone so he can't just use his body in his ground-bound game to score. He's not going to be, he can do that against the Celtics because Al Horford, Kelly Olynyk, neither of those guys are athletic enough to disturb him. Kevin Love's going to get some points down in the paint this series just off his offensive skill and off his offensive rebounding. And then you got Mr. LeBron James. Do I need to say anything about LeBron James? No, I'm not even talking about LeBron James. If you're watching this video, you know who LeBron James is. You know his work, as Mark Jackson likes to say. So let's talk about this series in general. Here's the challenges for the Cavs. Challenges for the Cavs is who's going to guard Isaiah Thomas, and what other challenges do the Cavs have? Who's going to guard Isaiah Thomas, and the big men who can put the ball on the floor, like Al Horford, like Kelly Olynyk. They can both put the ball on the floor from the perimeter and get to the basket. The Cavs big men Namely, the person I'm thinking of is Kevin Love, who a guy you want to have on the court because what he can do offensively. Kevin Love is a liability on D. Unless he is dominating the boards like he did in Minnesota, and he has yet to do in it for a long stretch of time since he's been in Cleveland. Unless he's dominating the boards, Kevin Love is a liability on D. So with him guarding Al Horford or Kelly Olynyk can get buckets on Kevin Love, which shouldn't be, but he can. And I think that's a challenge for the Cavs because that may force them to take Kevin Love out of the game, which is going to make Kevin Love not. Kevin Love seems to just not play as hard when he isn't playing a lot or getting the ball a lot. And if you ain't playing no damn D, you don't deserve the ball. So that's going to be a challenge for the Cavs. The other challenge again is Isaiah Thomas, who's the man for Boston. He's going to have a couple 30-point games in this series, whether they win or lose. Those are the two challenges I can think of for the Cavs. I really don't see another challenge that the Cavs have to deal with besides Kevin Love being out of there and Isaiah Thomas getting his buckets on whoever he's going to get them on. But he is going to get his buckets. Here are the challenges for the Boston Celtics. Number one, when the Cavaliers space the floor, and I've said this for 3 times already, LeBron James has the ball, and you got 4 guys who can knock down threes around him, and they space the floor out. What are you going to do, Boston? What are you going to do? There's no one who could guard LeBron one-on-one. You're going to have to help and rotate defensively. LeBron James, if anybody in the world can find an open man, LeBron James is going to get it to the open man. And when those open guys are shooting open threes, you're in trouble. I don't know what the Celtics can do about that. I really don't know if they have any answer whatsoever for that. Other thing, going to the basket and scoring at the basket. When you got a guy like Kevin Love, who can score in the post when he's getting fed the ball, LeBron James, who can score however he feels like it, especially going to the rim, and Kyrie Irving, who is the most creative around-the-rim finisher we have in the game these days. What are the Celtics going to do when those guys are going to the basket since the Celtics have no rim protection whatsoever? What are they going to do about that? I have no idea. And the last thing is the Celtics have one guy who can pretty much take the ball and create his shots and score points, Isaiah Thomas. We know he can do it. We've seen him do it all year. He's going to do it against Cleveland. The Cleveland Cavaliers have 3 guys who can score 30 points a game. Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron James. They got better outside shooters than the Celtics have. They got Channing Frye and Kyle Korver, who are snipers. J.R. Smith, who's a sometime sniper. Kyrie is a sniper himself. Kevin Love is a sniper himself. And LeBron James has kind of turned into a sniper. Even though he's not a catch-and-shoot guy, he has the ball in his hands. They got a lot of guys who can knock down shots. On top of that, the Cavs seem to be on a damn mission right now. This is more challenges for the Celtics. Cavs are on a mission. 8-0 so far in the playoffs. The Raptors faced them in the conference finals last year. Seem to have a better team this year, and the Cavs kicked their ass in 4 games straight. And yes, I know Kyle Lowry missed some games in that series. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, those two guys, and Coach Tyronn Lue, is just the team in general. Since LeBron is the guy, their esprit de corps, their swagger right now, their confidence right now as a team and as individuals is as high as can possibly be. After beating a 73-win team last year in the finals, I really don't see how anything Boston can do or anything Boston represents could knock this team off of their square right now. The Cavs are on one right now. LeBron James is still the best player in the world. He's been the best player in the world for almost 10 years straight. Boston fans, listen, I'm not a Cavs fan. I'm not a Cavs fan. I'm a good basketball fan. I just want to see good basketball and good basketball players. As an objective basketball fan, I really don't see how the Celtics can win this series aside from LeBron James getting injured. If LeBron James gets injured and doesn't play, the Celtics will win this series. Okay? Any game LeBron don't play in, the Celtics going to win. All right, let's put it that way. But if LeBron plays, even if Kyrie doesn't play, even if Kevin Love doesn't play, and Kelly Olynyk breaks somebody's shoulder again, if LeBron James is playing, the Cavs are going to win. No way the Celtics are going to beat LeBron James 4 times in 7 games. It's just not going to happen. They don't have the horses to do it, unfortunately. I still want to see a good competitive series. I'm not sure what this is going to turn out to be, but the Cavs are going to win. Actually, I am sure, because I'm going to give you my prediction right now. The Cleveland Cavaliers are going to the NBA Finals. This series is going to last. I'm just thinking about the best player on the floor. This is how I decide how long a series is going to be. I look at the best player on the floor. I say, where is that guy at right now compared to what he has to go through to win this? They're on the road. It's the Cavs in 5. 5 games, Cleveland Cavaliers win the Eastern Conference. They're going to the finals with a 12-1 record. I would not be surprised if this series goes 6 games because Isaiah Thomas pulled some big games out of him, which he has done before, and the Cavaliers Defense is kind of shaky, but it's been tough in the playoffs. If their defense gets shaky again, this can go 6. It can also be a sweep if LeBron James decides he wants to do it just for the hell of it. This could be a sweep, but I'm picking 5. Don't be surprised if it goes 6, and don't be surprised if it's 4, but my pick is 5. Everyone, I want to hear your pick. Leave it down in the comments before the game starts tonight. That's my pick for the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's have a good, clean NBA Eastern Conference Finals series, and I'll see y'all in the finals. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.
Hey, witness on the beat.